No excuses. I know that there were things. Even if it's that small. If you are food anxiety and today you ate 3 cookies instead of maybe half a cookie or whatever, write it down. If you sat alone in a cafe, write it down. Everybody, let's get it working. So now it's the days past Christmas and the new year is approaching with long strides. And this is why I wanted to invite you to a little annual reflect to look back on 2022 and practice a little bit of gratefulness, because I think that's what we need looking back, because our brain is wired in a way that makes us remember the negative things more than the good things. First, let me quickly introduce myself in the very likely case that you don't know me yet. My name is Fiu and I'm living in Germany, working full-time for the government after a career change. And generally just trying to figure out my life, because I feel I wasted my 20s and I have to make the most of or the best of my 30s now. So I do that together with you. I can imagine that 2022 was really tough for you, because we all have challenges in our life that we have to overcome, or where we sometimes feel overwhelmed or hopeless. Maybe I'm going to start with mine and then you can think of yours before we go back and see what was really positive and amazing about 2022. So for me, the biggest challenge or the biggest low of my 2022 was working in a toxic environment with a boss that was very distrustful, controlling and disrespectful, to say the least, where you would face open aggression and where I felt completely isolated and powerless. And in this job, my mental health really started to suffer and I had no more energy coming home for anything. But it was my first postgrad job, so I just couldn't leave. If you leave under a year in your first job, it really doesn't look good on the resume. And with my last bit of strength, I pulled through. Then I have an ever quarreling family where there are big divides running and where I don't see a light at the horizon. Yeah, that of course brings a lot of trouble, especially for my parents, and it's always very hard to see your own parents suffering a lot. Another thing that is quite a challenge will be that all my friends are starting family planning, nest building, and they're mentally involved in this settling down and when to start trying for a baby, and I'm at a totally different phase. I'm more trying to catch up on my 20s. So I think it's all about, and I have to learn that extremely myself too. It's to focus on the light. I'm just all too good at focusing on the bad, because sadly that is how I was brought up. But it's time to do something against that and to break the habits. So now let's skip to the good part. What was good about your 2022? Write it in the comments below. Find at least 3 things that were amazing about your year 2022. No excuses. I know that there were things. Everybody, let's get it working. Even if it's that small, for example, if you are food anxiety and today you ate 3 cookies instead of maybe half a cookie or whatever, write it down. If you sat alone in a cafe, write it down. If you have social anxiety, if you stayed longer in a friend's meetup than 1.5 hours, write it down. If you wrote a great mark and you surprised yourself, write it down, right? It doesn't have to be big things, but the daily little lights that we should focus on. I have collected some papers here in this jar, and I've made it a habit to write down what things to be happy about, or which thing really went great in 2022, and I'm gonna show you a little bit of what I have written down. Yeah, I got a new job after only 1 interview, which was a pretty big thing for me, because trying to get my first job, it was one of the worst times in my life, and I wrote let's say 180 applications, had so many job interviews, and just nothing worked out. So I changed my job and it Didn't take me more than a year. Okay, the next one is I met two wonderful colleagues in my last job. Yeah, they were the best things that happened to me in the job I left a couple of months ago. And I'm really happy to have found two such wonderful, inspirational, strong, and caring people. Another one is I became more relaxed in stressful work situations. Yes, that's true. Because I'm a person who gets stressed out pretty fast. Like my whole body starts getting tense. I get back pain. My stomach feels kind of nauseous and acidic because like all of this nervosity goes into my stomach kind of. And I think I'm handling stuff better the more challenges I overcome. I love traveling, and this reminds me that I spent amazing holidays this year in Italy, in Lake Garda with my boyfriend, and I went to Paris alone, I went to Prague with my mom, and me and my boyfriend went to Munich. Yeah, I started a YouTube channel and I started liking editing videos. Like 2 years ago, I would never have said that. It was my absolute nightmare editing. I hated it to the moon and back, and now I really enjoy it. I enjoy compiling the footages, like doing good overlays and adding right fonts. I don't know, I would never have thought I would ever like this. But yeah, maybe that happened to you too. Maybe not with editing, but with other things. Let's see what else we've got. Yeah, I went on a short trip. It was only like 1.5 days, but I went alone to Paris and I really enjoyed it. And I think this is important, that you can do stuff alone and don't feel like you are awkward and that people are watching you. I think this is a very important aspect of you becoming a happy person regardless of what is going on around you and people's influences on you. Yeah, and finally I helped 10 people to finally get their school graduation as an adult, right? So I was teaching a course of people who had already left school long ago before getting a graduation. They were like 20 to 42 years old. Some of them were refugees. And so yeah, I helped them graduate from school and kind of to restart their new life. And I got a lot of positive feedback and appreciation for this. And that gave me so much purpose, and it was, even though quite exhausting, a wonderful time. And finally, and let's make this a habit for 2023. Get yourself an empty jar. Have your pencil ready or your pen ready, that in the evening or whenever it occurs, to write down what good thing happened to you today, or after a monthly reflect what was good about that month, maybe what development are you seeing. Write on a paper slip, put it in here, and then at the end of the year, like have a little recap to see what was really going on. All right, so maybe as a little recap of 2022, start writing.